Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And I'm delighted to have Monique Allen with us today. She is the CEO and creative director at the Continuum, Life-Scapes for all seasons, and the founder of Life-Scape Method, coach and author of Stop Landscaping and Start Life-Scaping. So I'm excited. We were talking offline, and I can't wait to hear where this conversation goes. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about you. So bring us up to speed, how you got to be where you're at. And I love hearing the overcomer story. So what's the challenge, the barrier, the block that you had to overcome to get where you're at today?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to start with where I'm at today, because I think it's really important to sort of anchor the story in where I am right now. So I'm the owner and creative director of a multi-seven-figure landscape design build company. And our central service is fine gardening. And we do that in an ecological, sustainable way, where we're doing regenerative work, right? So we're doing a lot of repairing and loving of the land for homeowners and for businesses. And I also am a business coach. I've been business coaching for 8 years, and I do a regenerative style of business. It is called the Life-Scape Coach. And I'm working closely with businesses, doers and makers who want to build the kind of business that I built. Now, I'm almost 4 decades in. And so clearly I wasn't doing this 4 decades ago.
Right.
And, I started as a teenager. And I was, you mentioned the overcomer story. It's like where to start, right? I had a relatively tumultuous childhood, a lot of moving. By the time I got to high school, I think I'd already been to 13 schools.
Wow.
I have an immigrant story. My father is an immigrant here. And we're Armenian, and my mother's American, not Armenian. And so it was immigrant story, but also blended. So sort of that strife of American, Middle East, and what was going on there. And I was pretty lost. I was trying to navigate a pretty tumultuous family, lots of love, but a lot of turmoil. And so, 18 comes along, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. I mean, everyone's like, what are you going to do when you grow up? I have no idea, because I'm nowhere near grown up. And I fell into gardening. Somebody literally invited me to go and mulch one day. I had no idea what they were talking about, other than I was going to be able to be outside, and it was physical labor. I had been a dancer, and I was really into bodybuilding at the time and riding a motorcycle. And I was just really sort of feeling my physical form, because that made me feel grounded, and I was anything but grounded. And I felt very lost. And so gardening actually tethered me to the earth, and it really helped me to find some direction, not so much in my work, because I had no idea this was going to be my job, or my profession, or my avocation, or my aspiration, or any of that. I just knew I felt good doing it. And so I kept following what felt good until it started to inform my education. I then did business management. I got an associate's degree. And then from there, I went to Northeastern. I studied entrepreneurship because I was running my own business. And it just kept evolving. And every step of the evolution happened because of a hurdle that I had to then overcome. It's a male-dominated industry. And so my overcoming was to become more male, was to be more of a guy, just be able to kind of be in bro culture. And I loved it, and it was great. But then as I got older, I realized it was really tapping me. And so I had to figure out, how do I find like that nurturing? Got married, had children. Oh, okay, there's a great way to figure out how to nurture, have children, you know? And then the overcoming there was how to be a present mother and also run this business.
Yeah.
And, you know, so there was a big churn there. And we had the Great Recession, which, you know, almost flattened us. And I had to learn all over again. And I will tell you that the pandemic really, you know, was like, okay, we never stopped. We never stayed home.
Yeah.
You know, we never got, people would talk about this rest that they got to, we never got it.
Yeah.
So I think that the evolution of a human being, the evolution of a business is all about seeing the hurdle in front of you, figuring out how you're going to overcome it, and using the tools that are on your left, on your right, above you, below you, the you know, the plays that you can tear out of somebody's book that they hand you and say, hey, try this. And now I really feel like I'm in a beautiful place. It's not that it's super easy, but I'm in a beautiful place where I get to do really rewarding work, and I get to do it with agency. And I don't think I had agency. I don't think I felt sovereign in my choices or in my work when I was in my 20s and 30s. It wasn't until I was in my 40s that I started to realize I was actually smart.
Yeah.
And now I'm in my 50s, and I feel like I'm in this incredibly generative time. And when I look back, I think, wow, if I had only known, I might have felt like this at 38.
Yeah. Well, let's unpack that, because I want the listeners that are listening to this, that are in their late 20s, early 30s, early 40s even, or even those folks that are in our 40s, like what, you know, what was those life lessons? What are some of those things that, like, I wish I would have known earlier, or I wish I would have been able to incorporate. And again, there's a moment in time where I think that there's lessons that we learn when we're ready to learn it, right? We've created the foundation. And so sometimes we can't speed it up, because if we try to speed it up, you know what, we're going to hear it, but we're not going to ingest it. We're not going to implement it. We're not going to embody it. Right. And so, you know, but what are some of those takeaways or nuggets that you've learned along your journey?
Yeah, the couple that come to mind right away is I didn't know anything about like PTSD or being a trauma survivor. You know, there was abuse in my family, physical abuse, just a lot of kind of hitting and angriness. And I didn't understand that I was dealing with issues that were stopping me from my own self-realization, my own sort of individuation journey. I was just always hanging out in my limbic brain, like trying to survive. Right. And so I think one of the tips that I would share is, if you feel that way, if there are things that make you sad or mad, if you feel angry, if you feel hyper triggered, if you just like hate everybody, and trust me, like I hated everybody, men in particular, I wanted to just overcome all of them all the time and tell them I was smarter and better. Oh, but I also could do everything they could do. That is like such an outer, like everything about it is on the outside. And if you're feeling that way, then you're putting an enormous amount of energy into guarding the tender parts of you. And if anybody had said that to me in my 20s, I would have wanted to punch them, because but because now
we're in that moment. And I had a very similar upbringing as to you, and I'm relating a lot with you, because I had that, need to like prove myself, because all of those stories that I heard were, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not this enough, you're not. And so I had to prove myself. And when we come from that energy of that, it's a force energy, it's a energy of, and there's still things that pop up from time to time. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting, right? Like where did this come from? And so as we're evolving, we're seeing that piece, but there is, I don't know what the quick fix is for that, but it's the evolution of who we are becoming, right? And knowing
that's there. And the more we become a conscious and aware of it, right, then we can start to make changes and shifts from it. But it serves a purpose. I've told people before, it's like, there's things that are along our path and they serve a purpose for a while. And for me anyways, that served a purpose to get stuff done. Right. I was uber successful. I overcame a lot of, things. And then at some point it stopped serving, but I tried to take it forward and then it became clunky and then it started breaking down. I'm like, wait, what happened? It served me for a while and now it's not serving me. And so I think it's important to look at when it's serving and when it's not serving, and how can we tap in and soften it if we're aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the things that I learned is that anger in and of itself is not bad. Anger is, it taps into will. It taps into resilience and perseverance. It taps into survival energy. Yeah. So anger is actually, if anger were bad, we wouldn't, if it wasn't supposed to happen, then people that didn't have it, or, they just wouldn't have it at all. But all people feel anger. All people feel anger. And so for me, so first off, nothing's a quick fix. I mean, I know you just said that, but like nothing is a quick fix. But what I have learned is that when I notice something and I can actually take a step back, once I notice, I've been studying yoga and I'm teaching now, and it's been really, really helpful because it really requires you to start to move your frame of reference inward, because the problems are generally not out there. The problems are actually in here. So when the notice happens, and then you can take a step back and you can ask questions like, what is it about this situation right now that has me feeling anger? Pit in my stomach, my throat is closing, my palms are like all of those somatic responses to anger. What is it that's happening? And allow yourself to sit with that. And the reason why I think this is a really important, tip, tool, strategy to talk about is because in particular, I'm talking to tradespeople. I work with people who work with heavy equipment, with tools, with trucks. They're on the road, they're using their bodies to do their work. Yeah. And there's a lot of rough and tumble in this industry. And a lot of that anger energy is praised. And it's not doing the women in this industry or the men in this industry any, services whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the sad things that I have heard about people in this industry, getting incredibly sick, taking their lives, falling down with a heart attack, like that's because rather than, we don't want to put anger on a pedestal, but we also don't want to try to like amputate it. We actually want to look at anger as this fundamental part of being human that is actually telling us a story, so that if we took the time to stand back, we would be able to begin to use that. And for me, the big shift was when I would say I would build the first 2 decades of my business with anger energy, and the second 2 decades with love energy. And it was that pivotal point when I was able to look at anger more objectively and allow myself to get a little distance, so that I created space. And the thing that will flood in when you create space is love. And that the power of love is so much stronger than the power of anger. And then when anger comes up, you love it. You look at it with love and you say, okay, what are you telling me? What do I need? What do I need? What do I need to shift about my environment? What do I have to shift about my self-talk, so that I don't feel angry? And, that's going to be a lifelong process. Talk about not a quick fix. But like before this call, I was just on a training session with managers and crew leaders, basically talking about how to walk in their jobs with this mindset.
Yeah, no, it's profound. And I am so grateful that you are leading this movement in this type of industry, because whether it's, whether our listeners can identify with the anger energy or the more force energy, or it's any emotions, right? Like our emotions, like you said, like they're here, like literally it's our internal guidance system. They serve as a function to give us information and give us guidance to where we need to go, receive, so get support, or even just looking at ourselves and going, okay, what is this thing? Or what is this trigger? What is this thing? And, really taking a look at what is it and how do I transform it? And the more we do that, and it's interesting because on the back frame of this is, here we are, post-pandemic, it's been 3 years. I can't believe it. It's been 3 years. Like when I say that, I'm like, wow. Anywho, but as a result of that, and I was joking yesterday, I was speaking up at this event, and back in the day, like I feel like even a couple years ago, like even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we had this mirror, and the mirror was sitting over to the side, and we could have optional choice to go look at ourselves or not. And like, am I going to work on myself today? I don't know. And I could walk away, right? But now somehow energetically, the mirror has moved over into our face, and it is standing 1 inch away from our face. So even if we're trying to duck out or like move or rock, it is not allowing us to do that, because I do believe we're in this energetic transformation of our planet to do the thing that you're just talking about, which is moving from the lower vibrational energies to the higher vibrational energies, which is love and gratitude. And so it just gives me chills and brings me tears is that like more and more people are waking up to this notion of it's so much more than what we're doing. It's so much more about what we're saying, doing. It's really about unifying this planet back in love. And I'm so excited and grateful for what you're doing, because you're going to have a far-reaching impact on the people that you come in contact with. And what a beautiful way to really, take a stake in what's happening and have a powerful impact on what you're creating. So yay for you. Yay for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I do agree with you. I do think that, vibrationally things are certainly changing. I think people are kind of figuring something out about, and I would say that I'm seeing this. I'm an employer. So I have, I don't know how many employees, I have 20 something and for all your listeners who have employees and who have to recruit and have to, hire and onboard and train and, all of that, like it is so different. Like the texture, the flavor, the conversations of working to build teams is very different. And I think that speaks to what you're saying about that vibrational differences, because I think human beings are saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, employer, I'm not doing that. I'm not, and I think the pendulum has swung a little far, but I think it needed to, because I think a lot of employers needed to wake up to the fact that this isn't just about making money on the backs of humans. This is about creating safer spaces and work environments that really help people to not only do great work and make money, but also I believe that the work environment is a place where we have the ability to grow. We have the ability to become better human beings. And as an employer and as an owner, as much as I love gardening and designing and building these really great things, I chose to be a business owner. And so because I chose to be a business owner, first and foremost, my job is creating the business, the container for the humans, building really good strategies for those humans to be on great teams and really begin to learn and develop themselves. And then comes the clients and the work. And so my job is to build a team such that there are people on the team that are looking first at the clients and the work so that I can look at them. And that, talk about overcoming. That is a huge thing, because so many of us, I went into the business because I loved gardening, and the people that I worked for, I felt like I was treated like shit, and I wanted more. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna do it for myself. But then as I began to build it for myself and I brought people in, I'm like, well, I don't want to do to them the thing that I hated that made me go out on my own. So how do I do both? And I think one of the big life-scaping tenets is this idea that when you make that decision to embark on an entrepreneurial journey where you are going to be an owner and you are going to build teams, you must accept the idea that your first and foremost job is those teams.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with you. And I think the pandemic has really had an impact on what that looks like now. And I think that even more so is really making us look at that. And as I'm sitting here, I'm like, so like in like tune to what you're saying. Cause I was like, yes, yes, yes. Because I'm like, I have team as well. And, you know, I tell my team that I'm very picky who I hire. And the reason for that is because we have a very powerful company culture, and I am not willing to sacrifice my company culture. And I have a policy of this no drama. And so in 18, gosh, now I haven't had drama for like 18, 19 years. I had drama right early when I was starting. I figured out the person. I was like, you're done. Bye-bye. Because I'm like, I don't tolerate that. You know, high school was high school for me. And I moved on from high school and, you know, but it's creating a company that's really connected to a bigger purpose. And you're right. Like I'm a big believer in loving on your staff. And if they can love on your staff, then our staff in theory will love on our clients. Right. And so it becomes this really creating a really vibrational match and really being really picky. And so I follow the energy. So I talk about kinesiology and following the energy. And so so we have a 5-step interview process. And then after that, then I do an energetic testing and making sure that they're, you know, on board with what we're creating. And one of the third interview, they come in and meet with staff. And it's funny because like my staff does not know this. So just mom's the word. But when I do a group interview, the entire team, they have a rating system. It's 1, 2, 3, and 2, and 3 stars. And I won't hire that person unless they are all of them are all 3 stars, because I want to make sure that the folks that are going to be working in team with them also are buying into them as well, because that's an important impact, you know, into our team and our team culture. And so that's one of the things that's really powerful. And so for folks that have employees, like looking at what are your systems and structures, even for the hiring process, to make sure that they are a good fit. And if you ever need to use kinesiology, it's a great way. It's funny because like I actually will bring in resumes and I'll turn them, especially when we got like hundreds of email or tech resumes. I couldn't even look through them all, right? And I would just literally kinesiology test, and I would flip them over. I wouldn't even look at them, and I would test, and pull out the first 5 or the first 3 or whatever, and then we'd bring them in for interviews. So it's really powerful to again following the energy and making sure it's like a great fit for your team. So that's beautiful. I love it. And it's a great reminder for folks that whether we've had team or we're getting ready to think about building team, right? Some things to think about, as we move forward, because the workforce has really changed in the last year and a half.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of wounding and trauma in that workforce. So I think I'm always a little, what's the word? Like, I think a lot about, so I agree with you having a process for hiring. And what I know is that I'm looking for a level of raw material within people in order to then create an environment that will help them grow. So I'm a gardener at heart. And so I always tell, my clients, my gardening clients, it's like, we need to work on the soil first. I know you want this pretty garden. I know you want this tree, and I know you want this, and I know you want that, but like your soil is dead. There's nothing here. We've got to do the work to create the environment within which these plants will put down their roots and begin to spread and grow. Just because you have a pretty house doesn't mean these plants can grow. So we do the same thing in the Life-Scape method with businesses. As we look at building teams, is we're asking, how are you tending the environment? Because what ends up happening is, just like if a seed falls on a bit of ground, if it's hard asphalt, it's probably not going to germinate. If it's kind of dusty soil, there's some plants that'll germinate, some that won't. And you go until you get the best, yummiest, richest soil, and you get all this germination. So if we look at it like that, we need to develop the environment. And then the people you bring in are the seeds that you're hoping to germinate and grow within your company. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And no shade on the people that it doesn't work with.
Yeah.
We have to be compassionate enough as owners to say, I don't think this is the environment for you, you know, and be able to let them go with grace. One of the things that I'm very focused on and adamant about is that we must create some grace and normalization around separation, that we cannot vilify every single person that doesn't fit in our company. Instead, what we need to do is be more nurturing about helping them to move on to something that is better for them. That was a huge learning thing for me, because before it was like, oh, you don't like it? Get out. See ya. I don't want to ever see you again. I hate you. You're out of my book.
Yeah.
Right. And that ultimately, when we carry that, you know this, when we carry that energy is more work.
Yeah.
It is more work to stay angry. It is more work to hold a grudge. It's so much easier to release and let go. You know, I have these just sitting on my desk, right?
No,
Breathe,
I love it. Yes.
You know, and let go. Like, just
love it. I love it. I love it. I just was watching, just before hopping on this call, there was an Instagram. It is actually Gwyneth Paltrow. She was being sued by this guy who sued her for like $300,000 because she apparently ran into him at the ski slope. I didn't follow the story, but it was interesting. What the clip was that they were showing her is that when she was walking out of the courtroom, she leaned over and said something to him, and then she left. And so they're like, what did she say? And she actually said, "I wish you well." And he said, "Thank you, my dear." And it was a really kind of an interesting thing that even after, and I'm making an assumption she lost the suit, lost it. But you know, like, that is pretty profound when you can say someone who's suing you, "I wish you well," is very profound. And it comes back to that conversation of like, you know, how do we have grace even when people are leaving us? And that's been something that I am continuing to work with. Right. And so as business owners, it's taking a look at ourselves and, you know, evolving that process so that it can be a positive, you know, piece. And that's the work that we get to do. Like, you know, we don't, you know, I was so naive in business ownership in the beginning because I thought it was going to be I thought we'd have employees and the employees would stay for, you know, 25, 30 years. And then I realized that was not the case.
Not happening.
Not happening. And so, but it is like, we are here to grow and evolve and change. And it's a lot of work on our business as business owners, but the gifts that we get and the lessons we learn is, you know, all worth it.
Totally, because you evolve, your business evolves, you evolve. And then if you're really paying attention and you're doing the work, you actually become a better human. I mean, ultimately what we're trying to do is become better humans so that we're better to be around. I think that's, you know, it's not so much that we're fixing other people, but we're doing the work to just be better ourselves so that we're good to be around.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's, you know, and I don't think perfection is the goal. I think practice is the goal.
Yeah. No, I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up here. Thank you so much. I can sit here and talk to you, actually stand here and talk to you all day. Where can people connect with you at?
So the best place to connect with me, Instagram. I like Instagram. So at Monique.Allen is my Life-Scape coach. And then I have the lifescapecoach.com. So you can pop on there and just sort of see what I'm doing, and, you know, the normal channels, LinkedIn and so forth. But yeah, those two are really the best. And the thing that I'm most excited about is my regenerative business community. That's a group that I work with where people just come in and they're really talking about where they are on their business cycle and where they need help, and doing some mastermind and some coaching, and just really getting to the point of being in a room with a group of people that are doing what you're doing so that you know you're not alone.
Yeah, I love it. That's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your light being shining in the world. And we will be in touch, I am sure. So have a fabulous day. And thank you for being you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.